So welcome everyone to this getting ready for coming out of lockdown, particularly for food businesses. And what perfect timing. 10 minutes ago, I had the guidance come through to me from the Chamber of Commerce network on the different sectors and what everyone needs to do. So we will circulate that after this. We haven't had time to digest it all, but as we go through, I will try and make reference to that. It's just more detail than you will have picked up in the government briefings yesterday. And obviously this information is really going to come out every day, I think now. So, you know, it's down to us all to try and keep up with it because it's difficult, isn't it? So I'm really pleased that we're doing this session today. I'm really pleased that we're doing it in partnership with Merton Council and Love Wimbledon as the Business Improvement District, obviously representing many retailers and hospitality businesses and leisure businesses in Wimbledon town centre. Now, in the audience, there are a lot of you from cafes, restaurants, bars, retailers. We have charities that are dealing with food distribution and market traders. So I think we're going to cover a lot of ground. But before that, I'm going to ask our speaker, Sylvia Anderson, just to take us through the type of support that she gives to businesses, and then we'll move into the question and answer session and see how we can answer some of those questions or help to point you in the right direction. Also in the audience, we have Sarah Xavier from the Future Merton team at Merton Council, and we also, if I can't see him, but due to be here is Paul Milosevsky-Reed, who is from Trading Standards, and the Council's Trading Standards department will play an important role in this as we come out of lockdown. So without further ado, one more other thing I must say to you is that we are recording this. So if any of you have concerns about being on recording, please let us know and we can do something about it. And we may or may not share this, but at the moment we are recording it because obviously it's a good record of the discussions that are taking place. So without further ado, I'll ask Sylvia as our guest speaker today to introduce herself and take us through what your service offer is. Sylvia, welcome.
Okay, well, thank you, Diana. Good morning, everybody. I've lived in the borough for just over 20 years and I run a successful auditing, training and consultancy company, mainly based for hospitality and catering. Clients can range from a small establishment, but I'm based in Westminster in London, and I look after a lot of the 5-star hotels and restaurants, including Michelin star. And obviously I've been working behind the scenes for quite a few weeks to get my clients ready for when lockdown is lifted so we can prepare. And obviously, as Diana said, most of the guidance came out today. But we've been planning, because if you don't plan and when we get the go ahead, unfortunately, the whole industry has changed forever. And it's going to have a massive impact. And especially because I live in this community, I have children who go to school in Wimbledon. It's important that we look after our community. It doesn't matter what type of business it is, but we want everybody to try and get through this rough patch and get through at the end of the tunnel. But it's going to be hard work because there's going to be so many obstacles against us, especially in the hospitality industry, especially with the social distancing, which we'll talk about, that, you know, it will be a make or break for a lot of businesses. Some businesses will ride this storm out, but unfortunately some may not, depending on everybody's individual situation. So there's a lot of information here. I know we've only got a certain amount of time. I did say to Diana, and I do this with all clients and even potential people, you don't have to take on our services, but I'm quite happy to talk to any of you individually After this, Diane and Caroline can give you out my details. You can email me directly. I am happy to give you a free consultation on your business and go through anything that you may want me to answer. And I have lots of information that I have put together for my clients. Say I'll just read you a few little things, like for example, the new staff health declaration, how to report an illness, especially if somebody's suffering from COVID-19, a COVID awareness training, which will have to be implemented for all food businesses, so all employees, supervisors and managers understand what they're doing. A COVID champions, each business should have a COVID champion to make sure that they're responsible for looking after everything in relation to this. The chemicals, which are the best ones to use for this, best practice, future controls. And as Diana said, it's constantly going to be changing. So the information that I send you will be only relevant for now. And the areas which will be useful for a lot of you will be things like front of house controls, like pre-ordering by telephone, online and email, limiting menu offers so that you can do the 2-minute social distancing, providing takeaway food only, which is a good way of getting your business up and running at the moment, how to stagger service periods, how to avoid buffets, self-service, temporary sanitizing stations in your food place, sanitizing trays, one-way systems of travel and systems in your food business, distancing, contact payment, seating arrangements, eat and go, use of disposable cutlery, forks, knives, cups, disposable menus. Then going on to the kitchen, about how you should be reducing your staff, which staff should be coming in, workstations, designated areas, regular hand washing, more important now than ever. Disposable gloves, disposable PPE, including masks and aprons, the new delivery procedures, and managing staff rota. A lot.
Oh dear, there is a huge amount there, Sylvia. So I'm sure that's given. Go on.
But like I said, we have already been working on this. A lot of it is to do, because in my job, I am an auditor. So I go in, and Caroline, Diane know what I do, and I go in and I ensure that food businesses achieve a 5-star rating. So my job, I do a lot of work for media, TV and radio in regards to all of this. My job is to make sure your business is safe without it costing the earth, because at this certain time, with business being closed, there's going to be a big problem with pests, depending on what borough you live in. I don't know what the situation may be with your own business, but no cash has been coming through your doors. So you need to be able to be opening up with some sound support, sound advice, and with free information to get you up and going until that money starts coming in. And the key thing is, we all want restaurants to open, but each of you, whatever your establishment, you must be able to give your customers the confidence to come into your restaurant. Why should I go into your restaurant and not your restaurant? The hygiene rating would be more appropriate than ever now, especially to do with the cleaning, the construction design of your premises, but also your food safety management systems. If you don't have a food safety management system, you might be using Safer Food, Better Business packs. Thanks, Diane.
Okay, so we'll stop there then and give everyone pause for thought, I think. As I said, there is detailed guidance that is coming out from government as from today, and I think what Sylvia said is really the overviewing information that actually is still there in the COVID-19. So if you're doing a good hygiene and all of that now, then I think you'd be able to adapt to what is being asked of you through the COVID-19 guidelines. And they are guidelines. That's the first thing to stress. It's not statutory, so it is best practice. And I think Sylvia made a really relevant point there, is that these, I think everyone is feeling quite anxious every time we get some new guidance. Everyone thinks, oh my God, what does it mean for me? And that's for us as business owners, but actually also as customers. And I think therefore the confidence aspect is really important, that people have the confidence to come to your establishment and feel that they are safe, and that actually also all those people that are working for you feel safe. That's the key issues, isn't it? So I think what we'll do is we'll go to questions and answers. And when you speak, if you could say what type of business you are, or mention your business, so that we've got that context that we can respond to. So has anyone got anything that they would like to kick us off with? Because we haven't got any, in this one, we haven't got any sent in questions. So it's down to you guys to ask the questions. So has anyone got anything? And I think what we'll do is, if you can raise your hand, and I know Helen from Love Wimbledon wants to say something. So if you can raise your hand in front of I'm trying to do it, there's mine. It's not that easy, you've got to find where your camera is, and then I'll come to you. So let's go to Helen first at Love Wimbledon. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you, Diana and Sylvia. We have a question from Love Wimbledon's perspective. Obviously, we usually host a monthly market on the piazza, and we are aware that the piazza is being used a little bit for queuing, etc. But some of those businesses are closed. So in some respects, the space that we have available is slightly more in the round of the piazza. But what should we be doing to consider for our market traders? And I know that there are a couple on this call today who will be anxious to hear the news as to whether we're going to be going ahead with our next monthly market. What do we need to be considering for our traders, but also for social distancing within a public area between the market stalls?
I mean, I still need to digest the information that's come out this morning, Helen, but if you imagine that area in Wimbledon being like a restaurant, it's going to be very, very similar. So in restaurants, with a lot of restaurateurs are going to have to reduce their table spacing between sort of 20 to 40%, which is going to have a massive knock-on effect on the money that they're bringing into the business. So if you imagine that area where the traders are working, there's going to have to be like a 2-meter distance guideline between each of the stalls. You might have to rotate who comes on which day to make it fairness for everybody, but also there's going to have to be a 2-meter distance roughly from the customer and the serving point of the trader, because the trader wants to be looked after in regards to health and safety, and obviously the visitor. It's very similar, the guidelines and against of PPE, wearing gloves, wearing masks. A lot of it is going to be on hygiene, but you also got to be wary about people just walking past and who are not in the queue, and they could be your biggest danger. You've got to make sure people don't use their hands to touch the food, doing everything disposable. You may have to try a pilot test to see how it goes, just a few traders in the first launch to see how it goes. But with these guidelines I'll send to you, each trader will then be able to utilize this for their own business.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'll just add to that, Helen, under the Step 1 Guidance, this is what it says. It says food retailers and food markets, hardware stores, garden centres from Wednesday the 13th of May, and certain other retailers can remain open. And it's interesting that some markets have continued throughout this. So they can be open. I think one of the things that I've picked up on is that quite a few businesses are operating one-way traffic type of you know, they're directing people to either move around construction sites or in the public area in a one-way system. So, you know, that's something, I don't know if anyone's been thinking about that. Anyone in the audience got experience of that? Ruti, yes, come in and tell us about yours.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Ruti. I'm one of the traders at Wimbledon. I'm a baker. I have been trading for quite a few years. One of the things that I do at my stall to protect myself, the customers, and my food for no touching, I use a huge covering of food responsible cellophane film. So I do that over 7 years. I learned that with a British baker who did markets for over 20 years. So that gives actually huge social distancing and no touching the product. And if I raise the cellophane paper quite high on a stall, actually makes like a vitrine. So that's quite hygienic. That's just one of my suggestions.
Thank you. Alan, yes, come in, Alan. Yeah. Ruti, could you mute yourself again? Because I think you've got your child there. Thank you. Alan, yes, come in.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've got a question. We're a coffee business that supply offices in central London. And one of the things that we do, is that we send people out to clean the customers' machines either daily or once a week. They're going to be travelling. I mean, either the tube or the train. We don't quite haven't worked how we're going to do travelling yet, or where they're going to vehicles. Can I just ask about disposable masks and gloves? My plan was to give them reusable masks, that there are sufficient supply for them to have a fresh one every day, and to use that. I'm trying to avoid disposable, and also there's a bit of a stigma because of taking them away from the NHS. Is that an issue, using reusable sort of cotton facing as opposed to proper disposable masks for someone who's going into, in theory, clean a coffee machine? And also, what is the situation with gloves? When I sort of understand that if they wash their hands before working on a machine, gloves are not really necessary.
Sylvia, do you want to come in on that? I can say something about masks, but Sylvia, you go first.
Okay, so I had this question from a client just a couple of days ago, Alan. They said, can we use the cotton ones that we can just put in them, you know, in the washing machine, because it would, one, save money, and for the reasons you also said. They have to be BS, British Standard European norm. So with the government guidelines, wherever you purchase them from, I can send you the link. As long as they're covered by the British standards, then you can use them.
Can I just come in there, Sylvia? That was on masks, was it? That was on masks?
Yes, on masks.
Okay, so I think there's a really big stress point here, that many people that want to use masks do not want to take away the medically certified masks from those that are in those essential frontline working. So we know that the government has finally made some statements about face coverings. So these are not necessarily PPE type masks, but they are actually advising that people should aim to wear a face covering in enclosed spaces where social distancing is not always possible, and they come into contact with others that they do not normally meet, for example, on public transport or in some shops. Homemade cloth face coverings can help reduce the risk of transmission in some circumstances. Face coverings should not be used by children under the age of 2 or those who may find it difficult to manage them correctly. For example, if you struggle to breathe, I think would be one of those. So my understanding on this, and I'm not an expert, is that face coverings are very different to the PPE certified medical face masks, and they actually are in really short supply anyway. But you can use them, and you can wash them. You wash them at high temperatures at 60 degrees. But they are largely about the protection of other people rather than yourself. So that's my understanding.
I think that's my understanding, is that The ideal one would be a top of the range face mask, but they're just not practical. I can understand that. I can see quite clearly it's okay for use in confined spaces, and it's okay for use for travelling on the train. But the government appears not to be defining anything to do with whether you're actually working in a catering environment or in a what is ours, a sort of borderline catering environment, because we're not actually dealing with food direct, but we are in front of something that people are going to drink out of. So you think potentially ordinary face masks would be okay until there's a better supply of proper ones. What about gloves?
Sylvia, on gloves?
On gloves, I mean, gloves has always been a big, massive issue within the hospitality industry. People put gloves on and they think their hands are protected and just wear them completely all the time to do so many different jobs. So I think a little bit of common sense must be adhered to here when you use gloves. Now, especially your team, Alan, you know, if it was me doing that job for you, I think I might find it a little bit difficult to do it in gloves, because it's not practical and it's the size and the fit. We'll just have to see what the guidelines are from Diana. But the key thing is, the reason to wear gloves is that the hand is actually not going onto the equipment. But as long as the person washes their hands thoroughly, because the guidance is now every 20 minutes, washing the hands properly with the right procedure, you know, it can just minimize it to a safe level.
Good. I mean, that's basically the sort of route we were planning on taking, because we're also anti-single-use plastic as well. So rubber gloves don't go too well with that either. We'd have to change our website.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's a lot of that. Sylvia, go on.
Thank you.
And just talking about mask, in the guidelines I'm just reading here as we're doing the show, you know, I've been wearing masks when I've been going to the supermarkets, for example. I don't personally find them very comfortable. I feel like I'm always playing with it. And they're saying for chefs that masks shouldn't be worn in the kitchen, but they should be wearing some sort of lightweight full face visor that you've seen in some of the supermarkets. I don't know how that will go down, but it means that they're not touching it so much with their face and their hands to avoid cross-contamination.
Yeah, okay, thank you on that. Any other questions there? Yes, Deepa, you got your hand up, welcome.
Yeah, hi. I'm an artisan chocolate trader at Wimbledon. All my products are pick and mix. So they're open. I've got sneeze screens on the products. But like Rute was saying, you know, to put a sort of cellophane on the front, which will double protect the product itself, will help. But obviously giving tasters out, which is quite a common practice among market traders, is completely out, I'm assuming. So any sort of direct contact with the food shall I assume that is off the table now, the giving out tasters?
I can just, Sylvia will come in. I'll just say here that, I mean, there's a really important thing. This is on the risk assessments, that all businesses need to carry out a coronavirus risk assessment. And that's in consultation with unions, if you have them, or your workers at least. Health and Safety Executive have got some guidance on best practice risk assessments, and that you, as a business, you have to do everything that's reasonably practicable to minimize risk to workers, and obviously also to consumers as well. So Sylvia, you know, it's a great example, isn't it? What would you say to Deepa on her particular point?
Hi Deepa. So with these testers, do they in the past, when you've been having your store, have they been helping themselves to like a goodie box, or have you been giving the chocolates to them?
I give them directly the chocolates after checking about their allergens, and so it's face to face, only one at a time. So I check about the, you know, whether they are allergic to anything in particular. I list out the ingredients in the products that I'm giving tasters out. the products that I've left tasters out. It's only a single flavor, so it's there's no cross contamination on a tray, and so that is how I've been sort of doing it, which is a one taster.
And how have you been handing it to them? Do you put it on a tong and then put it onto their hand or onto a little plate?
I always wear gloves. So I wear gloves. I mean, I use only gloves at the stall. So I'm constantly wearing gloves, disposables, and I cut up a piece of chocolate with the knife, and I put it on a tray, and I hand it directly over wearing my gloves to them, and they pick it out of the tray. So I don't pick it and give it to anyone in particular in their hand.
For me, Deepa, as long as you have, and this is me personally, other people might take different things, as long as you are super clean, you're very hygienic, there's no cross-contamination, I don't see why you can't do that. As long as you put the precautions in place. You might want to use disposable knives instead of a proper knife. So you're just, because working as a trader, sometimes it's hard to wash equipment and tools. So you might want to use disposable stuff until the guidance gets better for you to go back to where you used to do things. But as long as you're clean and hygienic, that's more important than anything else.
Okay. So, I think I would personally not give tasters out until this completely blows over. Primarily because, I could hand it over. See, the thing is, there is going to be some form of contact.
Deepa, can I just stop you there? Because obviously it's a very detailed question, and I think we have covered it mainly, but really importantly, I wanted to say here is a lot of this is about the confidence from you and from the customer in receiving your goods. And actually what the guidance here is also is there's a 5-point notice for display in the workplace indicating that a business has completed a risk assessment and taken steps to protect people. And actually they're saying you can share that risk assessment. And actually, I looking at that, I think, having something up, even on your market store or in your, wherever you're doing your food thing, this 5-point that you've done these steps, I think is probably something that I personally would think would help the confidence of consumers.
Okay.
So that is something I think that would possibly be worth considering doing.
Sure.
Thanks a lot. And then if people want tasters, they can have one, can't they? You can still offer that. It's down to that conversation with the individual, I would think, around what Sylvia has said. Okay, let's move on to someone else. Anyone else got a point? What about social distancing? Anyone got any questions around that? Naomi, yes, come on in.
Hiya, I'm from Metronome Coffee House. We're not open yet, so this is like very nervous for me because we're launching at a time where we have literally no idea what to expect in terms of trade or anything. We're quite a small cafe space with no real outdoor space apart from a bench out front. So we've literally got a takeaway or very minimal seating indoors. So we're looking at how to do it safely for our team as well. So at the moment we're looking at single lone workers in the cafe to ensure that we're not forcing team members to work in close contact, which is fine when trade is slow. But as things pick up, I'm wondering how we can have 2 people working in a shop, but also safely. I know PPE and all the face masks are recommended, but I don't know how it comes across in food business if we're just, I don't know. I'm a bit nervous how to do it properly. Also, because for us, the cafe is more about experience, and doing takeaway feels very much, we're not giving them an experience. So how do we make sure that customers feel safe to come in, get a coffee, and keep our team safe? It's a really
important point. Has anyone in the audience doing that already that could say? I know while we're waiting for that, I know there was a small cafe holder on the television the other day. He basically reshaped the whole of his business to do really telephone orders through his website. So the customer experience was more a digital experience, and then coming to pick up the order. I thought that was quite interesting. He was doing very well using that technique. So there's different techniques, aren't there? But I think, you know, for many independent traders, it is about the experience and that one-to-one with the customer. And that's obviously what this whole thing really jeopardizes and stops. So has anyone else got any examples of that? No one doing that at the moment?
Yes, I do.
I can't see Eric. Yes. Come on
yes.
in, Eric. It's because I can't, yes.
I'm sorry, yes. Yes, we do. So we've redesigned the shop. So we've got Waffelmeister on the Broadway, which is a coffee shop where we normally offer, you know, hospitality. People come in and enjoy inside with good music, etc., so on. So we've recentered our activity on two fronts at the moment. One is Deliveroo and Uber, and we've done campaign promoting, you know, the business, offering more further reduction. So it's a bit of a shame because they already take 30% of whatever you do. You offer further reduction, but at least it attracts some business. And what we did to reassure people who are coming just for the takeaway, so we've put some signage on the floor indicating people should queue up 2 meters, they should separate themselves 2 meters, and we've put two large tall tables at the entrance of the shop. Therefore, nobody will go beyond that threshold. They come in, they've got menus on table, they give the order, we're like 3 meters away from them. Then once they've given the order, we prepare the order, put it on the table and get backwards so we don't touch them or approach them, and they pay by card. We put the machine next to them, they pay contactless. Once they've left, we take the machine back onto the cradle. And by doing it that way, it works. I'm not saying you're going to have tremendous amount of business because the town is pretty much deserted, but when there are people around, it works. They come in and they're confident. I hope this helps. This is our experience.
And
yes,
Eric,
also we have the same problem. We are located at the border of Wimbledon in Collierswood. We are a Venezuelan Latin coffee shop, and we are two shops together, but we have a tiny hall to connect the shops and a tiny hall to go to the toilet. And then it's like the previous coffee owner say, it's about experience. We have been doing takeaway as well with Deliveroo and Uber and pickups with the local customer. The question that we have is, of course, it's only my husband and me that we are from the same family group. But the question that we have is sometimes customers, they come from a family group, I mean, mother, son, two sons and the dad. And we are a tiny shop. I mean, it's like 1.5 meters from the counter to the door. And the four of them, they wanted to come inside the shop. Of course, they have children. Some of them, they wanted to use the toilet, and they stay by the time that you're making the food or the coffee. And, you know, they are touching everything. Normally, we have a sign at the door that say, please, one at a time at the shop. But if they are a family group and they got children, it's too difficult to say they cannot come in. What shall we do in that case? Also, we have to allow to use the toilet, or we can close the toilet because the toilet is too close. There is no way to keep 2 meters distance from the toilet and the staff team. And
you not shut the toilet because we shut ours. Even if somebody tried to force the way.
In my experience, it's legal. I mean, can I say to the people, because in my experience, when they are spending money, of course, all the shops are closed. They come with family and children, and you say, sorry, it's not allowed to use the toilet because it's too close. People get like a really offended, and I don't know. I only wanted to be sure that we are doing I don't allow them to use the toilet, but I only wanted to be sure that we are doing the right to keep everybody safe at the end.
Sylvia, do you want to reply to that? Yeah.
Hi, Erica. Nice to hear from you. Personally, I understand it's a two-way fold. I understand what you're saying, but personally, if it was my business and the space and layout that you have at your business, I would shut the toilet.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, most of the clients that I work with who are doing takeaway do not allow anybody to come through the front door for safety issues.
That's what we've done. And we've told, just to help, we've told these people when they insist for the toilet, it's for your own safety. You don't know if the previous one had done to that toilet. If they touched it and they were infected, you're at risk. And they do understand, to be fair.
Yeah.
They do understand.
And the other question regarding to the family, we have like a little terrace in front of the shop. Normally we have a sitting area there, but of course not at the time. And they come like a family group, and I explain to them, please, just one at a time at the shop. And am I able to put like 2 chairs outside by the time that they are waiting? They can wait there and then remove the chairs.
Yes.
Okay. You could do, but the guidance is no waiting areas allowed, and things like newspapers, magazines should all be removed from food places, so people don't feel that they can sit down and read a newspaper like they used to in a food business.
Yeah, it's true, because I put the chairs, they think that they can they can eat and drink over there, and they stay longer.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's coming through is that obviously many businesses really want the customer experience, as we said, and be really personal with those customers, and this is stopping a lot of that. So removing magazines and anything that is a threat to your own workers and actually the customer. So it's really difficult times. Helen from Love Wimbledon has said that Pret are open in Wimbledon, and they have a whole new operating model. So I think it is worth sharing your operating models and maybe going and having a look. And Eric, you sound at Wafflemeister that you're doing really well there, which is great. Naomi, you wanted to come back in again for Metronome.
Sorry.
Yeah.
One last question. Often, like if I'm working by myself or team members working by themselves, when I've been out and about in the supermarket myself, I've seen people disregard the markings. They just go try and walk into the shop. If I'm working behind a barrier on a counter, I try and make the coffees and get order ready. I've got no one there to stop people coming in. So I feel like even myself and my team members could be at risk of customers who are disregarding the rules. And what can I do about that? Because I'm one person or they're one person. We're not security. We can't enforce it by ourselves. So I don't know what to do to make sure we keep our team members safe as well.
I think that's a really big issue for businesses, this responsibility to their workers. Sylvia, do you have anything to say on that?
It's a difficult one, Naomi, because a lot of it's to do with common sense. Health and safety. You can put all the signs up and the stickers on the floor as much as you can, but it's people listening to those instructions, and they probably feel that they're not doing you any harm. I think you just have to be very, if somebody comes in the shop and doesn't follow your rules, I think you've got to just say it in a clear, confident voice that, you know, due to the situation, please, you know, would you mind moving back, please, or would you mind waiting outside until I get your order ready? Just have to be a bit nice about it, and just hopefully they will understand.
And maybe putting some signs up in the windows around this type of protocol that you're, you know, I think it's because we're interesting as consumers, aren't we? It's all about us rather than where we're going. Yeah. But I think if I saw a sign, a poster type thing in the window, I might read that before I went in. So they're just all little things that could be added. I don't know, Helen, is Pret got anything in their window, do you know? Or
yeah, they've got extensive communications in their windows and vinyls on the floor. I mean, it is a very, very good example if you want to go and have a look. Leon have done some very similar things with two customers only at any stage, because they've got the breadth of the counter to be able to cope with that number, and everybody has to stand on the stickers outside the unit. So I think there are some good examples that you can see by taking a look and wandering around. And indeed what Eric has done also is, they're all following very similar models. The one thing that I would say that we haven't touched on yet is it's all very well about the social distancing, but it's also about contact on, they're calling it fomite contact. It was a new word on me, lots of new words at the moment. But it is about things like door handles, etc. So try and keep your doors open so that you don't have that constant touching of things.
Yeah, that's what we did. We constantly leave both doors open so nobody touches them, and we've put 2 A boards just outside the door, one on each side with explanation, one customer at a time. And these A boards, they allow people to queue in a perfectly orderly way, because it's like a framework, if you see what I mean. So door constantly open and big A board outside, just making sure you corral people in the right direction.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Any other questions, points that we'd like to raise? Yes, well, Ruti and then Alan, we've got the same speakers. Anyone else wants to come in, raise your hand. Ruti, off you go.
Just a suggestion. I live in Berkshire, in Bracknell, and our farmers market here never stopped, actually. They only allowed the fruit stall, the baker, and meat. But they have social distancing things on the floor, like 2 meters distancing. Everyone has Perflex covers on the stall, so they have the plastic covering, like I said, the cellophane for the customer to try not to touch anything. And as well, they have people there guiding the customers from the entrance to the exit. And they offer as well hand sanitizing while the customers are waiting. They offer hand sanitizing. So they offer as well further advice, and they distribute as well leaflets about what's going on with the market, about social distancing, and what the customer is supposed to be doing. Shop quickly and wisely, care about others. Try not to interact so much with the stall holder. So that's just one of the views from the market here that never stopped.
Excellent. Really useful stuff there, I think. And as it's all about communication, isn't it? Alan, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, just very quickly. We've spent the last 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, moving from disposable to reusable. Are we now reversing? Are we now going back to disposable? And we're talking, from our point of view, about customers in their offices and what they drink out of. They've all moved away from disposable cups to China cups. Is the move going to be back again?
There's a really big issue here, isn't there, that businesses aren't accepting reusable cups for coffee. They're not accepting even some of the bags that we all use. I don't know. Does anyone have a view? I don't know that there's an answer, but it is obviously about the hygiene and the threat. Sylvia, do you have a view on that?
I mean, for the time being, it has to go slightly back the way that we did things. In places that I'm working with restaurants at the moment, they are asking their staff to bring their own reusable flask or cup with them so they can drink water out of them without the employee giving it. It's a lot of hassle, but it needs to be done at this time and age. I mean, if I worked in an office now, I'm not too sure if I would want to take a cup out the cupboard and make my tea out of it. I would probably even take my own mug in, you know, and wash it. But it's hard. And you don't want to really go back to plastic. I mean, one of the restaurants I work with is a little bit more expensive, but they're doing disposable plates, cups, forks and knives, but they're all bamboo because they don't want to go down the route of using plastic.
So are they reusing those though, Sylvia?
No, they're disposable.
They're disposable bamboo. Okay. Helen, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, all the research is showing actually that the COVID virus lives on plastic as a surface for longer than anything else. So wood is one of the lightest touch. So if you can get bamboo, I think that's absolutely right. But also cardboard, it doesn't live on there for very long, which is why it's okay to receive an Amazon delivery at your door, because actually there's a lot of evidence that it's very, very light touch on things like cardboard. But plastic, ironically, is where it absolutely sticks around for a long time.
Unfortunately, cardboard cups tend to leak unless they've got a plastic coating.
Yeah, yeah.
Also talking about what Helen just mentioned, I'll just quickly tell you something. It says, in order to minimize the risk of viral transfer from external food packaging, disposable gloves should now be worn when accepting a delivery and decanted not in the kitchen or prep area. And then those gloves then removed and then put in the bin. And the delivery driver should not be coming into the kitchen now to take the delivery in.
I mean, I think all of this really sets out, doesn't it, these steps that you have to do in terms of the chain, the supply chain, coming in to your door, beyond your door to the kitchen, what goes on in the kitchen, what then comes out of the kitchen to the customer. There's a whole sort of detailed process. And this is what the government is requiring businesses to do in terms of the COVID-19 risk assessment. And they are encouraging you to develop that with your workers. I think it's coming across today, isn't it, that everyone has concerns and views. So the more people you talk to this about, then actually you'll get a more robust approach. So Sylvia, yeah.
So, because I'm just conscious about time, let me just tell you a few things. My personal advice to all of you who have a food business, if you are the owner, you are known as the food business operator. You have to make sure that you implement these systems in place. And one of the key things is you must make sure you have a competent person, whether it's yourself or a supervisor or another manager, and that competent person has the right skills, the experience and the knowledge, like I mentioned before, to be a COVID champion, to be in charge of that COVID information. You know, for example, in some restaurants, they're already doing monitoring checks for anybody that's coming into the restaurant, any of the chefs and any of the front of house staff. You need to make sure you do COVID training with your staff. And something we can talk about another time, probably via email. Me and Caroline and Diana were talking. I'm quite happy to try and get everybody up to scratch on some basic food hygiene training through with Merton Chamber. So if anybody, it's not the same as doing the level 2 food safety and catering course. Most of you have probably done that. It's not viable for the situation we're in now. So it's the same sort of course, but it's tailored around COVID-19. So if anyone's interested in doing this, please do contact Caroline, and probably say something like 2 to 3 hours to give people a refresher if anybody feels that they need the knowledge. And then if anybody wants any of the free information I'm talking about, which I'm giving out to my own clients, then feel free to contact me. And if you want to have a little chat over the phone about your business, I'm quite happy to talk to you.
That's lovely, Sylvia, and that's a wonderful offer. And I think, you know, tilting the food hygiene towards COVID is essential at this point, isn't it? So really, really good offer. Thank you. And we'll ask people to contact us and see if we can set that up. Now, we do have representatives from the council here, Sarah from Future Merton and Paul from Trading Standards. Did either of you want to say anything about the council or anything on this, just to give you that opportunity? Paul's not, I can't see Paul, so I can't. Okay, Sarah, yes.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Just to say, in terms of social distancing, I know that Paul McGarry and the Future Merton team is looking at the town centre, working with Helen, to establish what we can do in terms of to make the queuing for the retail outlets safe, about signage, widening the pavements. So they are considering how we can do that now, and I'm pretty sure that will come out soon.
On that, Sarah, interestingly, because all local authorities are required, aren't they, to do this reshaping, if you like, of the high streets,
yes,
to allow more pedestrianisation and cycling as opposed to cars, which I think is an interesting strategy when we're being told to get in our cars more to go to places, but that's not your issue. But interestingly then, are you doing that across all the town centres?
Yeah, yes,
you are.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's
right.
the intention.
Yeah, so that's something for everyone to watch out for then, which
yeah.
I think will be really useful, because one of the things that was raised in Wimbledon is as more outlets open, then obviously the queuing system needs managing. And obviously, Helen, on the market, on the piazza, if you've got a market and then you've got Morrison's and Oaxaca or whoever is open there, that's an issue that needs addressing in terms of the social distancing and the queuing. So yeah, now I understand I've missed this, but I think Marjan, you had your hand up some time ago, so would you like to come in and say a few words, Marjan? You need to unmute yourself. That's it.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Sorry, I'm not into the food business, but I'm quite interested to know a couple of things from the people that are already up and running, from Eric, and I believe the other lady was Erica.
Erica, yes.
Yes. First of all, I would like to know that, because, you know, I'm also owner of the small business, and majority of my customers, or I would say every customer that I get, is literally they come to my business because they want personal approach. They don't want somebody who doesn't really know who they are and what they are there. So it's pretty much based on personal experience. Consider your business more or less the same. I wouldn't say 100%, but you're not providing that personal experience. So your objective of being open is just to keep the business ticking. And if that's the case, are you, because I talk to quite a lot of businesses, and lots of people they decide to remain shut till it makes a financially viable sense for them to start again, because just keeping yourself busy is one thing, making money is something else. So I would like to know more about your experiences so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjan. That is a really interesting point, because it's some of this operation, as Sylvia alluded to, is not very viable when you can't have many people. So Erica and Eric, did you want to say anything as to why you have carried on and the strategy behind that?
Yeah,
Eric,
of course.
yeah.
Yes. Of course. Several things first. I've noticed, so I was exactly of the same mind as you, Marjan. I thought to myself, I need to stay shut until it makes sense to reopen, and it'll take time. I would have thought July. But then walking the streets around, I've seen that a lot of people were considering to reopen at some point. So that was the first port of call. The second port of call is my landlord is extremely stubborn and wants the rent to be paid. And there's no negotiation here. He's taken my deposit. So already taken out of the bank account, the deposit that I've put to secure the rent, and he doesn't want to discuss anything with me. In order then to make it personal experience, and in order to please the customers that are around, what we've decided to do is to offer promotion. So for example, from the moment we open until the moment we shut, if you come to our shop and order any kind of coffee, you will have a free crepe. So we'll offer you breakfast. I know this is not the best, but you'll have the music while waiting, you'll have us making conversation, and you'll have a free item of food. Does it make sense financially? No, it doesn't. That's why I do it with my kids at the moment, because we don't make any money. We just cover for the food that we buy, and we cover for the electricity, and that's pretty much it. So this is where we are at the moment, trying to maintain some sort of activity in order to make sure that customers do not forget us and keep coming to us because they like the experience.
Yeah, and from
Erica,
our point of view, is the same, because of course we have two different kind of customer. Our local customer, that they are, of course, local residents, British, and our Latin community base, mostly Venezuelan and Colombia. For the Latin community, our food is comfort food, but for the local customer, it's not, because it's like a treat. It's not a food that you normally have. But the thing that we managed to do is try to keep our local base happy, in the fact that, you know, when they come for a coffee, they know that they are helping a small business to carry on. Normally they customers, they choose what restaurant. At the moment, they have the power. They choose what shops they want to save and which one they want to support. The thing is, when you work with Deliveroo and Uber, the commission that they take is quite high because they take 35% from your sales, plus you have to pay 20% VAT. That means I agree with Eric. We are not making any money. Financially, doesn't make any sense. But the thing that we are trying to do is the same. We have to pay rent, we have to pay services, we have to pay everybody. And if you don't have any kind of income coming in, if in some point we say, if we close, we are not going to be able to open again because we are not going to have any money to pay for nothing. For the reason we decided to try to carry on only, like I describe it, like a float. We need to float until that wave pass. And at the same time, it's an emotional time, in a difficult time for families. I think the business and the local shop that they are, and the same way helping them to have like a kind of normality in their life, or a kind of a different food that the one that you can cook at home. This is gonna make a difference in their life, and they're gonna help to remember you after this pass. This is the thing that we are playing. We are, trying to survive, help our business, help people with the normality sense, and at the same time pay our bills. This is the way that we try to do it. And we did it from the first day. We put a sign one at a time on the shop, please, because our coffee shop is not a normal restaurant. It's more like experience. It's like a Latin house. We have music, we have vibe, we have plantain, black beans, normal food that you don't get. And the way that we are doing is try to make people that they are still are on holidays, but at home. This is the way that we are trying at the moment. It's working, but like Eric say, it's working only to pay the bills. That's it.
Yeah. Erica, I want to be there now with you, and that's what it's about, isn't it? It really is.
Well, the name is Licky Licky, just in case after this pass you wanted to carry on.
Yes, I know where you are on Collier's Wood High Street. Yes, it's lovely. Right, our time is almost up. So is anyone got any burning issue they think we haven't covered, or they'd like to ask or share? Marjan, quickly. Yep.
Yes, just one more question again for Erica and Eric. Could you please just also give some form of idea, because we just noticed that around this, as soon as this crisis came, that how hopeless and useless our insurance has been. Have you added any COVID-19 policies to your existing insurance that before you start operating, or you're still operating with the same insurance as before?
Yeah, I was just pass that out to anyone. Has anyone been able to change their insurance policy to include some measures that obviously largely weren't included in insurances at the time we went into lockdown?
So to answer the question, because I thought exactly like you. The first day the crisis hit us, I called the insurance broker and said, look, I want to put a claim in. And he said, well, no, you cannot do that. In the UK, we don't offer a cover for infectious disease. Only in Singapore and other countries where they've had the SARS epidemic, they would have offered that. So the next thing I did, which I would advise you to do, I went on the net and I decided to go on these website comparison, the comparison website, to find another type of insurance that was far less expensive for the same cover. And I found one, instead of paying 1,200 and something a year, I now pay only 700. So I've made £500 just in one click, because it's not worth having these people telling me constantly, no, you can't claim, no, you can't claim, no, you can't claim, because you cannot claim. And there was a big dispute, a big argument between the government and the British Insurance Federation, whatever they're called. I can't remember the official name. The government was saying, you need to pay up, cough up the money. But they've said no. The ABI, I think it's called. And they've said no. So I would urge you to shop around and find better contracts, less expensive. And Helen knows better than me. I think that if the government doesn't come up with grants for businesses with a rateable value above 51,000, or that bounce back loan, which is not available from all banks, or maybe a rent holiday, well, we might not be surviving. We have to be honest.
And I think you've made a really good point there, Eric. One of the guidance for employers is at this time, look at your overhead costs and see if there is money that you can pare down on those costs, insurance obviously being one of those.
Insurance, I've shut all fridges and freezers that were not useful. I don't use all the lightings in the shop, only that's necessary at the front, so to make sure it looks shut. We've suspended all direct debits. I've contacted all creditors to say we won't pay anything for the time being, and so on and so forth. And I've changed my telephone and internet providers for something that was far less expensive. So I've done all this. All this has been done. I would urge you to do it. If you need help, you can contact me. I'd be more than happy to help you. Even the music, I found a better provider. You know, I've done all this backwards, looked at every single expenditure post that I had and reduced it down as much as I could.
Well, Eric, we all need to be doing what you're doing, and thank you for that offer. And I'm going to wrap up now. So this afternoon, we are going to hear from the Chancellor about a potential extension to the furlough scheme. The news is, the gossip, if you like, is that it will be extended to September and possibly with a reduction to 60%, but that's only gossip, so we need to listen and hear on that. As I say, there is all this detailed guidance on its way as we speak about the different phases of reopening and by the different sectors, so we will share that. That's all on our website, but we will directly email you that have attended this with that guidance that we have just received at 9:15 this morning from the Chamber of Commerce Network. A big thank you to Sylvia as our speaker and for your generous offers there, Sylvia, to help. This is a network, and I think what I've learned from today is that, you know, we could all learn from each other. You know, we're all in this together, really does come to mind, doesn't it? So please, we will share all your contact details, and please help each other. We need Merton businesses to be open. We've got Ruthie's daughter back in the room with us. That's all right.
She wants to join.
Of course she does. Of course she does. She's very welcome, really. But yes, so we're all in this together. Please share any information, ask questions, because we can pass that out not only to those that are here in this room with us now, but actually the wider thing. And one of the things that we haven't really touched on, but we do have in the audience, is charities that are also doing food distribution, that are using volunteers. So all these things apply to many different operators that are, if you like, coming into contact with food. So we'll wrap up there. I say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your time. I hope you've got something out of it. Please contact us if you'd like to find out more. We are doing these reach out and connect sessions on a very regular basis, and we want them to be very timely, as I think today's is. So yeah, please let us know what you need help with, and we'll look to see what we can do on that. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.